The school principal dismissed my son's bullying complaint. Then, they saw my superintendent badge. Principal Eleanor Grayson told me my son was too sensitive, while Ethan sat next to me with a split lip and a bruise spreading across his left cheekbone like spilled ink. She said this from behind her mahogany desk in an office decorated with awards for excellence in student welfare and framed photos of herself shaking hands with politicians. Her voice carried that particular tone of condescension reserved for parents she'd already decided were overreacting, making problems where none existed. Ethan was 12 years old. He'd come home from school 3 hours earlier with blood on his shirt and wouldn't stop shaking. When I'd asked him what happened, he'd finally broken down and told me everything. 6 months of harassment, daily humiliation, threats, physical violence that had escalated from shoving to punching. He'd reported it to teachers 5 times. Nothing changed. The bullies were the sons of prominent families, star athletes, kids who brought prestige to Lincoln Middle School. So Ethan learned to stay quiet, to accept that his suffering mattered less than maintaining the school's reputation. Until today, when Connor Yates had cornered him in the bathroom and beaten him while 2 other boys held the door shut. I'd taken photos of his injuries with my phone, timestamp and location data embedded, documented the blood on his shirt, asked him to write down everything he could remember while it was fresh. Then I'd called the school and requested an immediate meeting with Principal Grayson. I'd been superintendent of the Riverside School District for 3 years, but I'd kept that information private from the schools my son attended. Deliberately hadn't mentioned it during enrollment, hadn't pulled strings, hadn't used my position to give Ethan any advantages or special treatment. I wanted him to have a normal middle school experience, to be judged on his own merits without the complication of being the superintendent's kid. I'd moved to Riverside from another state to take this position, and we'd enrolled Ethan at Lincoln Middle School in a different attendance zone from the district office to maintain that separation. My wife Jennifer had questioned the decision, worried that hiding my role might backfire. She'd been right. Sitting in Principal Grayson's office listening to her dismiss our son's trauma, I realized my attempt at giving Ethan normalcy had instead left him vulnerable to an institution that protected bullies over victims. Grayson had reviewed none of the documentation I'd brought, hadn't asked to see the photos or read Ethan's written account, just launched into a prepared speech about how middle school boys roughhoused sometimes, how social dynamics were complicated, how parents needed to let kids work things out themselves. She mentioned that Connor Yates was the quarterback of the football team, that his father was a major donor to the school, that Connor was going through a difficult time with his parents' divorce. Mrs. Grayson, I said, keeping my voice level despite the rage building in my chest. My son was beaten in your bathroom by 3 students. He has physical injuries that required medical documentation. This isn't roughhousing. This is assault. Grayson's expression shifted to something between pity and annoyance. Mr. Carver, I understand you're upset, but we've investigated these allegations before when Ethan has complained about social issues. Our teachers report that he can be somewhat withdrawn and sensitive. Sometimes children who struggle socially misinterpret normal interactions as bullying. The gaslighting was comprehensive and infuriating. She was suggesting my son had fabricated or exaggerated 6 months of abuse because he was sensitive, that the split lip and bruise I could literally see on his face were somehow a misunderstanding. Are you saying my son inflicted these injuries on himself? Grayson leaned back in her chair, her body language radiating authority and dismissal. I'm saying that middle school is challenging for all students, and we can't be expected to monitor every interaction. If Ethan is struggling with the social environment here, perhaps you should consider whether this school is the right fit for him. She was suggesting we remove our son from the school rather than address the violence being perpetrated against him. The victim should leave, not the perpetrators. Classic institutional protection of those with power and influence. Ethan had been silent through most of this, but now he looked at me with eyes that broke my heart. He'd learned that reporting abuse led to nothing but more abuse and being told he was the problem. Mr. Carver, I have another meeting in 5 minutes, Grayson said, glancing at her computer screen. I appreciate you bringing your concerns to me, but I don't see any actionable violations of school policy here. Boys will be boys, as they say. If Ethan continues to have social difficulties, I can refer you to counseling resources. The dismissal was complete. She decided before we walked in that nothing would be done, and she was ending the meeting to avoid any further discussion. I pulled out my wallet and removed my district identification badge. The superintendent's seal was clearly visible, my title printed in bold letters beneath my photo. I set it on her desk where she couldn't avoid seeing it. Actually, Mrs. Grayson, I think we should continue this conversation. I'm Richard Carver, superintendent of Riverside School District. This is one of my schools. These are students under my jurisdiction. And you just told me that a documented assault against my son isn't an actionable violation of school policy. Her eyes went wide, darting from the badge to my face, to Ethan, and back to the badge. And what happened next changed everything. Full story is linked below or on my channel.